Hi everyone, this is Karen Frith. Welcome to the Consultant Collective series. I've spent the last 10 years working with and learning from some of the best consultants in the market, and now many of them are joining me to discuss how they've built a thriving business, how they've survived huge shifts in the marketplace, and to share the secrets of their success with you. The one question everyone asks me is, how do I start my own consulting business? So the Consultant Collective series will provide answers. Join me and some of the most experienced consultants in my network to learn, apply, and share strategies to grow your consulting business. My name is Karen Frith, and welcome to the Consultant Collective series.
So, Stephen, we've never actually worked together before. I think we've probably been like ships that pass in the night. I know one of your previous clients, I got approached to go and help them out. It just didn't work out at the right time for me. So, but I have noticed that actually you probably got the role that I was talking to them about as well. So that's something that we need to pick up on
Really?
Yeah. The penny dropped with me last week, actually. So yeah, that's really interesting. We'll talk about that later on. So no, we've never actually worked together. But I do know that you're very well known in the logistics industry. I've got a couple of connections in that space and in construction as well. I don't know whether you know that your name is known in the construction space. So that might be news to you, but certainly people that I know are very well aware of you. Although most recently, I know that your work's been more in the development of strategy and assessments of doability of programs, and you're not scared to say that actually down tools or this, you're not going in the right direction. It's quite refreshing, I think, the kind of consultancy that you do offer clients, and certainly in the new market that we find ourselves in, I think that added value is really going to be respected by clients going forward. So you're definitely building out a niche, and I know that you've got potentially in the pipeline yet another niche, which is really exciting. You've made me think about those cyclists that I pass every day in the country lane in a slightly different. It's great now I can put a face to some of these people rather than just seeing the back of them. I see you now and I think, I'm going to give Stephen a wide berth now rather than get frustrated behind this peloton that's like 6 wide and you go, why? They're all chatting away. So you've probably done, without realizing it, the cyclists of this world a big favor, because I'm not one of those advocates that says leave them alone. They could be project managers, they're program managers, they're real people rather than lycra-clad annoyances, which is, to be fair, around the country lanes. I know that that's what a lot of people think that they are. One of your focuses, I know, is your family, though. You just don't want to, you've got 2 young daughters, and I know that it's really important for you to spend time with them. But you've also been so inspiring for the group because you're looking ahead. You know that, in order to give them the life that you want to give them, and plus to create the life that you want, you've got to do something now for the 5 years in the future. And not many people, to be fair, think like that. Lots of people are very for today. What can I get for today? But I do think that the market's changed, and I do think that you're looking that far ahead to be able to support your own aspirations alongside the client aspirations. So it's great just to have that dual thinking. So what I'd really like to understand from you at the moment is, the last 12 months, being difficult. You've probably spent more time with the girls than you had originally thought you would have done, which if you've got young kids over the home learning and stuff, probably a blessing and a curse in equal measures. But what did COVID give you from a professional point of view? What did 2020 provide you? So that you could start to look ahead. Everybody's looking backwards at the moment. Everybody's thinking about, oh my God, how do I come out of this? But I think you started early to look ahead. What was it that triggered that for you?
I think when the pandemic first really hit in earnest, so going back to March of last year, I saw a lot of contractors, as I'm sure you did, that were the uncertainty of markets, of projects, of programs, and people were contracts that ended very, very swiftly. And that got me worried. I started to think to myself, have I got a bit of an eggs in one basket approach? I am, after all, supposed to be managing risk, and I'm not managing my own business risk correctly.
Yeah.
And although I was very fortunate to not lose work, and I continue to work throughout, I've not dropped work since the pandemic started. That was luck rather than judgment. And so I had a bit of I wouldn't call it a eureka moment, because that makes it sound like it's my own invention, but for my own business, it was a eureka moment, which was saying, why am I working on this sort of contract to contract basis on a day rate kind of way, when actually I could offer so much more if I worked on a sort of more of a portfolio basis. And really, I just needed to take greater control of my pipeline. And where in the past I was working to, I'll happily admit, probably no more than half a year in advance, I'm now saying, well, actually, what does half a year, 3, 5 years look like? Yeah. So that's what I've been working towards that now. And I'd say it's been really liberating, as well as educational as well, because it's just given me that sort of confidence in the business and in myself, and that actually I think it is natural for a lot of human beings when they become a contractor to be in that mindset of, well, my contract finishes on the 31st of March or whatever. What happens if I don't get? That's not the right outlook to have, but I think it's an understandable one, given that if you've had a big career with big organizations, it's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah. And a lot of people badge what you just said as sort of like there's an element of imposter syndrome in there, so you go from one thing to another. But what's interesting to me is, and what I found is those two words, liberating and confidence. Okay, so you actually just feel as if you're taking a little bit more control of your own business, your own, your own life in the next few years. You do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. So I've rejected clients, and I'm sure you've had a second thought around some of them as well, as as they've come along. Is it quite the right fit? So that's the liberation side of it. But that confidence that actually, when you take a look at how you've structured your business and what you want it to be, it's that. So you take a deep breath, don't you? And you go, I can actually do this, and I am good at what I do. And I do know that whilst I'm in a contract with a particular client, if I keep my network warm, if I know what's happening in the marketplace, if I have the time to make those phone calls, which is effectively nurturing your future pipeline, confidence breeds confidence. So you get more and more in tune with what the market's doing, and actually do you think that the time spent at home, no traveling, not 5 days a week in a client's office, the old model that we all sort of put up with, even though I think it's the pandemic has given us an opportunity to go, what, we've worked like that for the past 12 months. That's the future. What do you think? Has it given you that time to reframe your business?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think just in general, whether you're a contractor or a full-timer, some of the old attitudes of you can't do these things remotely have just been knocked down. Yeah. And those organisations that will insist, I do think will struggle a bit more to find the right talent. Yeah. The obvious ones is that working remotely, I now have a greater market, bigger size market opportunity for me. Yeah. Not so long ago, if you called me up to do a contract in Edinburgh, pick anywhere, I'd probably say no, I can't do that. I've got 2 young kids and everything. But actually, yes, I can come up and we can do some work and everything, but I'm going to be doing the majority of it remotely using technology like this. Yeah. And I think it is going to be a big game changer for that. And those companies that actually are willing to work more flexibly are going to get that better talents. They are going to be able to get the contractors like us. And of course, what it also means as well is that I think that the idea of multiple contracts, and I know you're far more experienced in this than I am, is a lot more flexible. Yeah. I mean, I would feel awkward being on somebody else's desk in their office, talking to another client, doing work for them, even though technically I can. Yeah. It just feels it feels that actually that business is looking more at results, what people produce as results, rather than what time they've put in.
No, absolutely. And yet I used to spend a fair amount of time in coffee shops over what was effectively lunch hours and stuff like that, and then work into the evenings in hotels, because whilst you were working away or maybe living away, that dead time in the evening, I was staying away from my family for 2 or 3 nights a week. So I wanted to make sure I was using the time well. And I'm not a gym bunny or anything like that. So it's one of those, you could go in and I could do some work. And typically it was work for clients in different time zones. So it actually fitted in, So I've built the business around the lifestyle that I chose during that time, and my lifestyle's changing slightly, so my business is going to change slightly as well, but the opportunities that the last 12 months have given us, I think, it's not all bad. I think we've got to start to look at some of the upsides. It would be so easy just to wallow in how bad with COVID, with IR35, all of that type of, don't get me wrong, I know it's been bad for a lot of people, but some of us have been, I think, more fortunate than others, put it that way.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I found was that sometimes, you can get a bit of screen fatigue, should we call it? And I started to work in different ways. But I was thinking, I've got a particular problem I need to solve. So do you know what? I'm going to grab my bike, or I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm just going to walk in the countryside, ride in the countryside, do whatever, and work it through. Yeah. Not be there trying to slave over a computer, over a Word document or a PowerPoint or whatever, trying to solve this problem. Yeah. And that's really liberating as well. Having the ability to do that, I found I've done some of my best thinking just doing that.
It is. It's inspirational, isn't it? As you're walking around and you're going, you know what? Actually, I've now just solved that problem, and the next 3 that I didn't even know were going to hit me in the face. But you've managed to join the dots during that walk.
Yeah, definitely.
So, at the moment, I know when we've spoken, you've come up with some great new sort of angles, new propositions to join the dots around various changes in the different marketplace, and to bring in your passion. But sustainable delivery was probably one of the first conversations that we had around, what you see, and how you, with your unique perspective, with your background in logistics and exec engagement, and your personal passion of cycling, how you can help. So do you want to could we just explore that a little bit more? How are you going to sort of create this niche during the dots and move it forward? What does it look like?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, first off, what I'll do is I'll go a little bit back to say that one of the things that I realized quite recently was that I'd always been in this frame of mind that, I was in logistics and supply chain for a long time. I worked for DHL for 12 years. And I always wanted to sort of progress. I didn't want to do those projects that I did before, setting up distribution centers and efficiency projects and all of those types of things. I wanted to progress for my own progression, bigger and better projects. So I've got to be honest, I get calls quite often for these kind of things. And up until recently, I just dismissed them as being there, done that, as naturally you might do. But actually, I started to think to myself, well, I've got this great network out there, and I can use these people for my benefit, for their benefit, and also for a client's benefit, to be able to deliver some of this, change. And that's one of the things I really want to grow and really develop, because I shouldn't just want to the programs that I personally look after. I need to complement those with my expertise elsewhere as well, and have people that I know and trust that can deliver those for me. And really what I've noticed as well, going, on the sustainability bit, there's been efforts in logistics and supply chain for a while now to act more sustainable. I'd say that in my experience, it's been more focused on the sort of warehouse side of it. So how do you recycle packaging a lot more effectively, that sort of thing. But the delivery side of it is probably, I'll be honest, it's been probably a bit more token. Some of the things that have been done have really been used to promote a brand rather than to reduce a carbon footprint. But I think there's in my mind, there's 3 key pressures that are hitting the industry now, and they're all coming from consumer, they're coming from employee, and they're coming from obviously government. The big thing that affects the logistics and supply chain is around the ban on new petrol and diesel engines. Now in cars, it's 2030. and in lorries it's 2040, which seems like a long way away, but it really isn't when you've got to think about the infrastructure for batteries, fleets that need to be changed. At the moment, there's only one 19-ton electric vehicle on UK roads. That gives you a bit of an idea of just how big. One. But yeah, and that's only very recently. So there's been great inroads of stuff like final mile delivery. So I'm talking about electric cargo bikes, even pedal powered, normal pedal powered, mechanical cargo bikes. DHL, for example, do final mile deliveries in places in Netherlands, Belgium, starting in London, New York. And I live in Bath, and I see quite often local cafes, bakeries starting to employ a lot more cargo bikes to get around the city.
Yeah.
Lower cost. It's not just about carbon footprint, it's also lower cost, more efficient.
Yeah.
And the technology of those bicycles and the electric, it has come on so much. And with the electric bike, it is really becoming a more viable option for people to become more car free and use them as for commuting, for doing their shopping and all that kind of thing. And electric bikes are due to triple in volume over the next 3 years. And the whole cycling industry is last year was worth 2.2 billion. It is growing absolutely massive.
That's just in the UK.
That's just in the UK. Now, obviously, COVID accelerated that a lot. People wanting, being time at home, having more time on their hands for those that are unfortunate enough to be either laid off or furloughed. So to get them out on their bikes and good clean activity. And I think people start to realise that they're a good proposition. And it's just grown massively. And I've worked in other industries where I did a project whereby the business was growing massively. Brilliant. Absolutely. The branding was brilliant. The website was excellent. The products were great. Supply chain just couldn't keep up.
Right.
And we're not talking about putting groundbreaking new things in place here, just getting it sorted, making sure that it can support the growth volumes that the business wanted to achieve, that kind of thing. And I don't see the cycle industry being any different to that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Excellent. So you could use your logistics background, you could use your network of the good delivery people that you do know. You can you've got the vision and the understanding of the market to see where it's going. I think you've got a brilliant proposition there. You just need to package it up and get the word out there. So pipeline development, networking, you know what you've got to do. You've just got to fit that in with your 2 girls, your family life, your current clients that you've got, because I know you've got quite a few clients on the go at the moment as well. So opportunity is there. You just got to make sure that you can scale effectively. That
absolutely.
Yourself.
I mean, I'd say that the other thing that I really noticed during the pandemic as well, it was a time for reflection as I'm sure it was for a lot of people. But when contractors first started getting laid off, the network lighted up. People were just calling around, how you getting on, how's it affected you? Do you know of anything going on? This kind of stuff, or just a touch in. Are you okay? How's things going for you? Type thing. And what I really took away from that was I have built up this brilliantly, superbly talented network that support my business. And there's people there that, that I'd love to work with again, love to work for again. And there's got to be opportunity there. There's got to be opportunity to nurture that network for the overall good. Like I said previously, to benefit me, to benefit them, and to benefit clients.
No, I think it's everybody wins, and it hits that sort of dopamine button for us all as well, because you get that feel good fact that actually you're making a difference. There are some industries that I wouldn't work in, but I think what you've touched on there uses so many of the different aspects of your unique skill set that why not. So with that said, what does the future look like for you then? Looking ahead, we spent some time doing business with the past, as they say, but what does the future look like? Where would you be, your business be within the next 3 years?
So, I mean, I'm still early on in this new direction for the business. So my immediate concern is to grow my business through leveraging that network. Although, like I said, I've been going for 8.5 years as an independent contractor. It's only the last couple of months that I've really had a plan that goes past half a year. So I'm not going to do a hope. I'm going to do a statement now. In 5 years' time, Project Logic will be supplying logistics and supply chain project and program management through associates and maybe employees. No, not maybe, and employees.
Yeah.
As this will grow, I want to provide more sort of business transformation management to supplement that, and to help those large organizations realize their strategic ambitions. The industries that I'm not going to limit myself to the cycle industry at all, because I think that's wrong for me. It's too early. But as all that goes on as well, this may sound pretty aspirational, but what I want to do is, like I said before, I think there's plenty that I can add value to that cycling industry. So to help them basically do more, adopt alternative and greener technologies, for them to introduce better supply chains, as I said before. I can help with all of that type of thing, and that's exactly what I want to do. And I think also as well, with more on the supply chain part of the business, one thing that occurred to me is, I've been doing efficiency projects for years, and really, if you take a fleet of vehicles and you reduce their mileage by 10,000 miles a year, just as an example. Before, it was all about cost reduction. Of course it was. That's why you wanted to do it. But actually, you are effectively reducing your carbon footprint. And so you just, 10, 15 years ago, you just wouldn't have counted that. That wouldn't have been one of the reasons to do it. So I think with that, and it's seen companies do that, this isn't just about looking at your fleet and saying, let's replace them all with electric. This is also about how do I sweat the current assets a lot better, reduce empty running, doing the same deliveries, but in a much more slick way. All of those kind of, they are logistics basis, but the reason for doing it, I think, has changed as well. So I think the business can more than easily support that area, which is in fact one of the things I'm doing with one of my clients at the moment. It is exactly around that. So yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. I can't wait for it to.
You know what I've noticed? So every time you talk about in isolation, you might talk about your background logistics, and you might talk about what you're doing now, you as a consultant going out and talking to execs, and you come across as really professional, really inspirational, and your stuff. Absolutely. When you inject the sustainability piece, when you inject the cycling angle, you come alive. You actually inject everything that you could say in your sleep. You inject passion into that then, and that really is the hook. That's the bit that goes, actually this guy knows what he's talking about. He's so passionate about it. It's not work for you. It's not just getting a new client. It's not just, keeping your pipeline or your revenue, your top line revenue buoyant. It's actually the passion in there. And when you've got something like that, oh my God, yeah, I can well imagine in 5 years' time, you are definitely going to smash all of the targets that are out there. And I hope that, we're still in each other's world where we're around to see it, because we've got quite a few people now in our groups that are just like you. We've sort of tapped into that passionate side of what they do, rather than just, well, I'm a program manager who's really great at delivery and I can go in and do the same thing in multiple organizations. At some stage, I defy anybody to say at some stage it gets a bit stale. If you've been doing it for too long, you just go, you're like a parrot. You just repeat everything that you've done in the past. Now you've injected this stuff in, and you just light up.
Thank you very much for saying that's much appreciated. I'd say one of the things that I did what I realised a couple of years ago now, I've worked in some quite diverse environments. I've worked in the prison service, I've worked for NHS blood and transplant, so that's blood and organ donations, and I've also worked in the funeral industry. Now, those three different organisations that I work for, those are businesses and organisations where it's not just about how much money can I make. It's not just about growth and profit. There's also there's a human element to it, which is fascinating. So, you know, to deliver a funeral is a very, you know, it's a service. It's a community service. Obviously, blood transplant, blood donations and organ donations, it goes without saying just how important it is. Yeah. And the prison service is about rehabilitation of offenders, and again, another community service. The thing with those in types of environments is, as a project program change manager, you have to think differently, because it's not just about, you know, when I've worked on some contracts, which is how can I cheaply get this box into the warehouse, look after it, pick it, and send it out as quickly and efficiently to the right quality. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. So what it does do, from what I've learned from working on those projects, was how to think differently, put myself in lots of different people's shoes, and that ultimately is quite beneficial. And I think that is another reason why I think the sustainability part of where I'd like the business to go, I could really add benefit, because you've got to think of that other thing here. You know, this isn't just about your fleet running 10,000, like my example before, 10,000 miles less a year. It's also about your responsibility, your corporate social responsibility to the environment.
Absolutely. And you know what, that just triggered something else that I think you and I need to probably have another conversation about. So there's a lot going on in the marketplace around humanizing delivery at the moment. Okay, so not just the corporate, you know, have we hit our metrics, what's the KPIs look like, you know, and typical delivery around status reports and RAG statuses and all of that type of stuff. It is that social responsibility, that humanizing of what we're doing. And sometimes it's at odds with, you know, with the direction of travel that a program in theory should take. You know, you've got to maybe reset it and be strong enough to, you know, to voice this to the senior stakeholders. So yeah, that's definitely another angle, but I think that's one for another day. You and I need to debate that, because there's lots going on in that space.
There's a lot to explore in that space, for sure.
There is. So listen, just, you know, going forward, we're gonna stay in touch. You've got lots. I think there's lots in your portfolio anyway. We'll be encouraging you to commit to, you know, ideas down on paper. There's definitely, I think, a book or a course or something that's sitting there. You know, you shouldn't keep all of this to yourself. You've got such a lot of experience that we need to start to write this stuff down. You know, there are younger program managers coming through. There are, you know, different digitally native teams coming through now, which I think, you know, they'll take all of the textbooks, but we've got to put the human aspect. So I think that's a bit of responsibility on our behalf as well, to actually share the experience that we know. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you, Karen. Thank you.
No, it's been great talking to you, and yeah, we will continue to talk. Okay.
Brilliant.
All right.